she wanted someone with more experience. And I totally understood that. I didn't even push it. I did ask, if she felt that she had a good consult, if she would be kind enough to leave me a review on Google, and she did. She left me a super nice review.
Smart move, my man.
Yeah, thanks.
Move. I like to hear that. Well, hello and welcome to the J. Sterling Hughes Show, where we share how we have built our family law practice from 0 to 25 plus attorneys all in the past 10 years and 15 million in revenue. And my purpose here is to document what's working and what's not working with hopes that you can take that, you can recontextualize it and shorten your success curve. My name is Jeff Hughes and I'm your host, and we're back again following Tom Hartin. I'm so excited about this podcast today. I literally have been waking up thinking about this, Tom, wanting to get a sneak peek, but I wanted to save my exuberance and excitement for the actual podcast so we can get emotions. Yeah, authentic emotions here. So this is, I think, our 7th or 8th podcast, and we're following Tom as he's starting up his family law firm in New York, Long Island area. And he launched on July 29th was his launch date. It was kind of a soft launch date, Tom. Right. I know you had vacation in August. You didn't even start your advertising until the end of August on the 26th. But we have already had success, and September is following August, and it's already gangbusters. So let's go back, and I'm imagining that there's people that are on this listening to this podcast who haven't heard the story yet. So you started on the 29th of July. Tell us what happened after that.
Yes, so let's start from there. So on July 29th, I started 2 jobs. I started this new firm, and I started kind of back as my old job as a patent attorney, doing some contract work. So I'm kind of splitting 2 days a week as a patent attorney and 3 days a week doing my family law firm. So July 29th was kind of my return to patent law and also the start of this family law firm, which, obviously at some point, the family law firm will get big enough that I'll plan to step away from patent law in general. So going back to July 29th, that was when I launched, and shortly after had and you remember my website was running for a little bit before that, but kind of in the background. I wasn't really doing anything. My website launched and it was there, but there was no content being published, nothing, I wasn't accepting phone calls, anything like that. I was very careful with, not having any conflict of interest with my previous job. So once I left that job, which I believe was on the 26th of July, then I was able to start answering phone calls, publishing some content, stuff like that. So as of July 29th and into early through mid-August, I had a presence on Google Maps. Obviously, I had no SEO presence yet. I still really don't, which, that's not surprising. I had a presence on Google Maps in a really small, kind of confined to my zip code. And even within my own zip code, I wasn't really ranking number 1 yet. Again, not surprising. So we're covering, like you said, covering the period of August 1st through August 31st. And I also had a pre-planned family vacation from August 18th through August 20th. Not the best timing, but unfortunately, this was planned back in January. If back in January, I had no idea of launching a family law firm was in my head at that point. So things moved rapidly. And so, needless to say, for the month of August, my phone was not ringing off the hook. Did start running Google ads on August 26th. And as you said, September has been kind of the opposite, been a little bit crazy with the amount my phone's ringing, the cases that I'm handling. There's a lot going on.
Okay.
Going back to August, I signed a whopping 1 client for a low fixed fee. And that client had turned out to be a bit of a mess. And thankfully not on my part. And thankfully, I spent a lot of time putting together my fee agreement. I got one from you. I got one. James Joseph also was generous to give me his agreement. I got one from another friend of mine who's a family attorney out of state. Kind of merged them all into one, added some of my own stuff, just kind of made it my own, double checked with the laws of New York State and everything like that. And so thankfully, I can get into why that played a big role.
So let's go back and stay in August right now, just because we can check this month by month. How many consults total did you have in August? Be generous in your description of consult, because I know you had some calls. So whatever ones of those initial calls kind of rose to the level of a consult, include that in there, just so we can get some good numbers here.
Sure. So I had 3 consults. And
you recall what each of those were for?
So 2, obviously, 3 consults, 1 of them signed. Would you like me to discuss the ones that didn't sign first, or
just tell me the 2 that didn't sign? What was the nature of those cases, and then we can talk about the one that signed.
Yeah, and so actually, I had some questions for you relating to the second one here that didn't sign. So let's start with those. So first consult, one of them, this was a divorce case. Actually, had a really great meeting with her, but this lady, she was doing her due diligence. She was interviewing 4 attorneys, and there were some complex issues in her case, mostly her husband owned a business and she thought he was hiding money, and she like had idea that he had like some Bitcoin and that he was from another country. I was thinking he was hiding some money there. There was a lot of like kind of complex stuff going on. So when she left the consult room, actually, I felt really good about that one. I left and I was her first of 4, which kind of puts me in a bad position. But I thought it went really well. We, on a personal level, the interactions went really well, and I felt good about it. She did call me the following week, and she expressed that she like really liked meeting with me. She felt the same way that we connected. She liked my personality, felt that I was really empathetic, but ultimately, given the nature of the case, that there was a business valuation, possibly hiding some money somewhere, she wanted someone with more experience. And I totally understood that. I didn't even push it. I did ask, if she felt that she had a good consult, if she would be kind enough to leave me a review on Google, and she did. She left me like a super nice review.
Smart move, my man.
Yeah, thanks.
Move. I like to hear that. So she liked you, but she was good enough to actually call you back and say, "I'm not hiring you, and here's why." That's gold.
Yeah, she did.
That's gold. Yeah,
she was nice. Yeah,
you can't help the fact that you don't have that much experience. So
right.
All.
Yeah,
well done.
That one went very well. I obviously didn't get that one, but nothing I could do. I don't.
Do you recall what you quoted her roughly? You don't have to give exact details, but I'm just trying to get a sense for your quote.
I don't.
Okay. Because when you're describing it, you're talking about a very complicated case. So in my mind, that's easily a stage 1, $10,000, $12,000, $15,000 stage. It sounds like.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So now we're going to get to that on this segment.
Okay.
This one I had a little bit of a hiccup. First one I didn't get, but I feel like I did nothing wrong on that one. So this one, not to say I did anything wrong, but this was another case where it was I don't want to say older woman, but she was, and no cases with like minor children. I would say probably in like mid to late 50s. Same thing. I thought the consult went pretty well, and she. Ultimately, after the consult, I called her once. She didn't answer. Waited a couple more days. I called her again, and she told me that she was going to give her husband another chance, and she told him about the divorce. He, I guess, kind of talked her into staying together and him trying to work it out. And so she said, giving him one more chance, but if it doesn't work out, she definitely would give me a call back. I don't know how much of that is true or just her being nice. I don't know. I mean, she did answer the phone, so
that's actually pretty common. That's very common. Yeah. I think I've told you a good third of the people who actually come see us never go to court, meaning they don't ever file. So they're there to get information. So that's very consistent. And the fact that celebrate that with her, right? Hey, their marriage has a chance to stay together. So great. Love to hear that.
Okay, let me take a pause here. So you get a case and you get a client in Wisconsin. The client says, "I want to sign with you," and they sign the agreement. What's your first step in the case?
After they sign with?
Yeah.
Okay, they need to know the next step. So whatever that is relative to their case, the next step is gather your financial basic information together so we can do a temporary order hearing, prep for that, or depends on where the case is going.
Okay. My question, and I think the last time we spoke, again, this is really probably basic family law stuff that just didn't cross my mind. So my understanding, and now the way I'm like processing things is we can kind of immediately file something with the court, right? And that's how some cases are going to go. And I think that's probably especially true if there's issues of like, we need like seeking some type of temporary relief, whether it's like a protective order or she needs attorney's fees paid or, immediate custody issues, stuff like that. But in other situations, so like, for example, this person here where there were no minor children, they got along and marriage was just kind of fizzling. Negotiation, you can kind of start negotiations without filing anything with the court. Does that sounds right?
You can do that.
Okay. So that's kind of where I was going with this one. And so I think this one was actually before my vacation and I hadn't even finalized my pricing. So I don't even think we talked about pricing. I don't think we got there. So I told her I put the fixed fee model. I was literally going with your model. And when you had explained the model to me, in my mind, every case was filed in court. That's just how I kind of thought divorce, because I've seen 2 divorces in that, and from my personal life, and that's both how they went. Looking back now, I know why, but yeah, that doesn't always have to go that way, especially in situations like this where the couple is amicable, right? So I said, I was starting to walk through the agreement, and I was like, I don't think I quoted her a price, but I explained how it's going to work, that you would pay a first fee for what we call stage 1, which is the first 120 days of the case. And then there's a stage 2. which takes us from that 120-day mark all the way through 365 days. And then a stage 3 if the case goes to trial. I think I quickly was like, your case is not going to go to trial. Your only issue is valuing the house and how the house is. And then she asked, what is the purpose of the stage 1 and the stage 2? And I guess I hadn't given that much thought yet. And the only thing that could come to my mind was that in New York, and I don't know if it's the same in Wisconsin, is that if you file in court, you have 120 days to file a request for judicial intervention, right? So that first 120 days, you file with the court. Really, that first, you could take 120 days to just negotiate between the parties, right? You serve summons in the complaint, and it's really just negotiations at that point. You have 120 days to request a judge to be assigned to the case. So that was the answer that I gave. I was like, 120 days, it's tied to this. And she was like, but we're not filing in court, right? We're just negotiating. And so where does the 120 days come from? And Jeff, I won't lie, I just didn't have an answer.
You'll have more moments like that.
Yeah. So yeah, this one probably wasn't my best. Yeah, maybe I do tend to think she was telling the truth that, maybe the divorce probably what's happening right now. But yeah, I don't think that was my best.
That's nothing compared to more experiences like that you're going to have. So the most important thing in these consults is to connect with the client and listen. That's more important than what you did say or didn't say. If you want 80-20 it, that's going to matter 80% of the time is how well you listened and connected, not the actual words that came out of your mouth.
Right.
Or being surprised when she asked you that question.
I was more surprised that I didn't have an answer because I gave one and I was like, oh, that's the answer. And then she's like, well, that doesn't make sense here. And I was just kind of like, you're right. And then there was kind of like an awkward.
Yeah. Well, and
I covered, I was like, there needs to be some kind of breakup. I don't want to charge one single fee between now and trial because obviously then that's going to be a higher amount.
Yeah.
So I have to break it up somehow, and this is the best way that we found to break it up. I did say that eventually, but I'm sure I stumbled a little bit there.
Well, the agreements I sent you were based on Wisconsin law, which requires a 120-day waiting period after filing. So that's easy for us. So we don't have that mechanism you have there where you can start negotiating and then just file everything at once. That's not something that our courts here do. So here in Wisconsin, once the action's filed and the other party is served, that starts a 120-day waiting period before the court could finalize the case.
Okay.
So that's how we structure our agreements, are based around that.
Okay. But even if, in this case, the parties want to negotiate outside of court, is your fee structure the same thing?
No, it's a little different in how we'll structure it. Like in Illinois doesn't go that way. Yeah, Illinois, they could actually do it much faster than we can here. So our agreements down in Illinois are a little bit different than the ones up here.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever spoken about that where a case where if the negotiations start and then, with my understanding, you come to some kind of stipulated agreement and you file an uncontested divorce with the court, and then it just hopefully gets stamped by the judge.
We have an action down in Illinois that we call amicable agreement, where we charge them a flat fee, and that's just for what you're talking about right there.
And that's funny because I'm kind of trying to redo the fee structures in my head, and that's exactly the solution that I came up with. I was like, I'm going to stick to Jeff's thing for court cases because we have, a little bit different, but there is a 120-day period where a judge gets assigned and then it gets a little bit more serious. Obviously, you continue negotiations, but at that point, the judge sets the deadlines. The clients are no longer setting it. I kind of decided I'm going to set a separate agreement for cases that are just being negotiated outside of court, and then have that kind of court retainer as a separate thing if the negotiations fail and we need to file with the court and kind of start from scratch.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Let's talk about the one that actually retained. Tell us about that one.
Whew. Okay, let's get to that one. So it's a woman, she's about 30, a couple years younger than me, has a child with an ex-partner. They were never married. They were living together. I'm going to try to give enough to give some context to the case without saying too much. There's some substance abuse, alcohol issues involved. And we met. She was really nice. I felt for her, understood her situation. She had a history of substance abuse, but she had been through a rehab program that she had a graduation certificate from, and she has been in therapy after that for about 6 months. And her ex is being really, really difficult about letting her have joint custody. He's really fighting for sole custody, and really she hired me to kind of attend, just review the file and attend the negotiation with her and just kind of be someone on her side, because she had previously had a legal aid. I guess she qualified for legal aid, and she felt like the legal aid was not helping her. She, couldn't get the legal aid to answer her phone call, was not responding to emails. When she asked her questions, the legal aid was just like quickly giving quick answers and kind of being dismissive.
Yeah.
So that I was like, oh, okay. In my head, I'm trying to stick to flat fee. I was like, all right, so let me a couple hours to review the file, figure the negotiation will be like an hour or two, and then maybe a little bit of time afterwards built in just as like an extra. So I, thinking I'm going to have a low billing rate at this point, probably somewhere around like $300 an hour. This is going to take about 5 hours. I quoted her $1,500 as flat fee for this. And I completely blew the roof off of that just because of things that happened. So the negotiation happened 2 nights ago. So it was Monday night, right? Today's Wednesday. Yeah. Happened Monday night, still exhausted. It was unmitigated disaster. Just a lot of arguing. The opposing counsel is a nightmare. And I don't know, the specifics of the case are really interesting, but I don't know how much I can say.
Probably not much here. Yeah, I agree.
Which is unfortunate.
So this is what we would call in Wisconsin, I think you would call it a paternity case. Is that right? So they're not married, but they have a child together.
I don't think we call it a paternity case here, but yeah, you're right. They have
so that's what we call it. So whatever you call it there. So
post case.
Is the action scheduled for a trial at this point? Are you going to still represent her through that?
I am, and I have it's currently 3:09. I have another meeting with her at 4:00 in my office, and I think that I am going to. The trial is scheduled for October 1st.
Okay. Wow. That's quick.
Yeah, that's coming up pretty quick. Yeah. And Jeff, I know very little about, I think my knowledge of family law is coming together pretty good. I think my knowledge of procedural stuff, especially family court, right? You learn a lot about civil procedure in law school. I mean, still that's 10 years ago at this point. I've probably forgotten most of it. Yeah. But you don't, as far as I remember, learn family court procedure. It's completely different. Discovery is just crazy. Will there even be any discovery at this point with the trials coming up on October 1st?
Too late for that. You're going to be winging it.
Yeah, which is fine with me. I can handle it. And opposing counsel is, like I said, she's nasty. She's just not a nice human being, and I'm gonna have a little fun with it. Okay. And I did at the meeting. I go in. My intent is to always be as nice as possible. This is not a disagreement between me and her. It's between the clients. But she made it personal, and every time I asked a question so there's also an AFC, attorney for the child. I assume you have that there as well.
Guardian ad litem. Same
okay,
thing.
Yeah. Yep. And he would say things that he would use terms like, he used the term, I remember at one point, V meeting. And I was like, I'm sorry, can I ask what do you mean by V meeting? And he meant meeting about visitation. Okay. And she rolled her eyes, Jeff, like you felt the room shake, rolled as if I asked I don't know, what is child support? I don't know. I didn't know what you meant by V meeting. I'm sorry. And then at one point in the beginning of the meeting, she called the meeting a 4-way. And I was like, can I just confirm what you mean by that? She's like, well, clearly there's 4 of us here. So it's a meeting between the 4 of us, and said it really nasty.
Wasn't personality that?
Yeah. And you know what I said? Actually, there's 5, which is true.
And she's not good at math either. Bad personality and not good at math.
Just not nice. She's going to be like that at trial, and I have ways to deal with that. I think my client says that the judge is really nice, and I just think the first time she does something like that, I'm just going to be like, Your Honor, it's really hard for me to concentrate with the opposing counsel rolling her eyes next to me or something. It's going to be tough. So not only is she a little difficult to deal with, but she has been practicing family law since 1993.
She's probably going to act different in front of the judge, first off. So I wouldn't expect
No. The judge had actually said something to her once.
Okay, well, she's got a reputation. Everyone knows. So you probably don't have to say much. You probably just have to do your game and let the judge filter it out. Yeah, I would make sure you prepare your client for that, though, because a lot of times clients interpret that as effectiveness, and that's the opposite.
Yes. Oh, right. And I think she knows that. And yeah, I do need to prep my client. She has a tendency to talk too much. If asked a yes or no question, there was one time during the meeting where she just volunteered information, and I actually kicked her under the table. I wasn't sure what to do. Couldn't stop talking. Yeah, so that would be one thing I need to do. I'm going to see if we can get her counselor to be a witness. I still don't know if it's too late for me to do that. I actually spoke to her counselor. She called me while at her counselor's office, and her counselor is like absolutely loves her. I would love to get her on the stand, but again, October 1st, there's not much breathing room here.
So since since September started, so we're here on the 18th, and you've already had 2 clients sign up since the 1st of this month, right?
4. I've had 2 divorce clients and 2 other post-judgment clients.
Wow. Okay. And how many consults total have you had month to date?
Just 4. I would have to go back and count, but I've had a pretty good closing rate. I'd say either 6 or 7, maybe probably 6, I think.
Okay. That is great. And for them to sign up that quickly too, that's pretty fast.
And yeah, so some of those consults might have been like towards the very end of August. I have to go back and check the dates. I checked when I got like a retainer paid, and this client was the only one that paid a retainer in August. So for September, probably at least one of those consults was in August. But so far, in terms of retainers collected, there's been 4, and one other that 98% confident she will sign. Jeff, I'm almost at the point where I'm like, I think I need to take a break for a couple weeks and not accept any more clients, because especially if this one, like if on the off chance we're able to settle this one, this gives me some breathing room. But if anyone calls now, I'm kind of like, I'm happy to take you, but I really can't do anything before October.
Do you have a sense for what you've spent in marketing dollars thus far this month?
I do. So my monthly bills are very steady. I'm trying my best to keep them low. My office is $1,200 a month, which is very low by standards, Long Island. I pay Paul with Honorable Marketing, who I met through you, $1,000 a month for the SEO and we publish like 10 articles a month. And he's in the process of doing like backlinks and all that stuff. Google Ads, I'm currently running $1,500 a month.
Okay, wow.
That's $3,500. And then I estimate about $4,000. There's some other little expenses. I signed up for a Lexis subscription just for family law stuff, which I need. I think that's like $220 a month or something like that. And then, other small things, Adobe, Microsoft Office stuff. Yeah. I just pay monthly.
So we'll track these all separately, but just from a standpoint of marketing spend, you're going to spend about $2,500 in the month of September, and this far today, you've got 4 clients from that.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, and we've got obviously 12 days left in the month, so you could add to that number, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think so.
Perfect. Yeah, so you're spending somewhere around $800 a client. Do you know what your total value? Probably you won't know that yet because they're so new.
Yeah, and so I'll back up and say one other thing. Because of that whole issue with the fee agreement that I had where she asked like the 120 days, and then me coming back from vacation and then having this case going on with the negotiations. So for the 2 divorce cases that I signed, I'd had to do them on an hourly basis. I didn't have time to put together a new fixed fee agreement structure or come up with pricing or something. What part of me was like, price it at like $6,000 or something. I'm going to play it safe. I took a pretty low retainer. Both of them signed with credit cards. So I'm just going to do monthly invoicing. But I hate tracking time. I'm definitely getting back to the fixed fee model. But between now and October 1st, I don't think I'm going to have time to put all that stuff together. So that's probably an early October project.
This is all happening quick.
I had someone call today, and so it hasn't paid me yet, but she will. Asked about prenuptial agreements, and it wasn't even really something I had thought about before. I was like, I'll do it. It's easy, easy enough. There's plenty of resources out there for a prenuptial agreement. She asked how much I would charge, and I quoted a flat rate of $2,000, and she was like, "That's awesome."
It is awesome.
So
it's low.
I have no idea.
So you're learning, man. This is great. This has been a very, very good start to your firm. So just like make all the mistakes now when the stakes are low. But I think just getting momentum is important. So I think it's great. Just get momentum going and start earning money. So you're still working 2 or 3 days a week as a patent lawyer.
I am. Yeah.
You're juggling a lot. I know you got 2 little kids and
I don't know if you can tell. I'm feeling the heat a little bit this week.
Sure.
And what I really wasn't up until like Monday evening. That set me back a little. I had a feeling I'm going to be feeling like this until October 1st is over. And I think one thing I need to get a little better at, other than selling fixed fee, but that's once I need to put the agreements together first. I kind of need to keep my patent job for a little bit longer because we've talked about this before. They're providing me with help. So I'm working 2 days a week, maybe a couple extra hours on top of that, and making a good salary and getting help. So it would be, as much as I want to just build my law firm and as much as I can, it would be crazy to walk away right now, especially until my wife goes back to work. But my kids are they're too young, they're not in school, and she used to say, "Oh, Mom, I like it that way." She enjoys raising the kids, and we're happy with that agreement. But if I were to go full-time family law, health insurance is probably for a family of four, probably $4,000 a month.
Wow. Yeah.
So that plus the salary, I mean, it'd be crazy to walk away from that. So I kind of want to, until I think I'm like really, really, really busy enough that the calls just like won't stop. And I think I'm gonna hire someone, even though I'm not a full-time family. I think that's kind of where my head is at. Talk to a few people, you included, like what's the average amount of cases that an attorney handles at a time consecutively. I think we decided about 30. We've talked about that. So if I'm doing this half-time and patent law half-time, if I'm at a steady 15 cases and the phone is still ringing off the hook, I think I pull the trigger and look to hire someone, whether that's a paralegal to kind of ease my burden, or I'm leaning towards just an attorney. So I don't know, that's where my head is at. But I do think, before I get to that point, one thing I need to get better at is being a little more selective on which cases I accept. And I know that sounds crazy because I've been doing this 2 months and I should take everything that comes through the door. But looking back, maybe issues where there are cases where there are substance abuse issues, I might stay away from for like a few months, 6 months or so, because it's tough and it's hard. It's a little hard, like mentally too, emotionally, which I'm not generally one that like takes work home with them. But this one, this one's tough a little bit.
Well, are there any other issues you want to mastermind and talk through?
I don't think so. My head is just patent law and this trial. Literally, I have all the other retainers. I have like the divorces are both like, they're not pushing me at all. They're both signed, and like I said, we're filing. Both of those are being handled outside of court. Both of them paid their retainers, but basically was like, I'm gonna wait and talk to my husband. Then he'll get a lawyer, and then we'll get things going. So those are naturally on a waiting period, which I'm happy about. The other child support cases, kind of the same thing. One of them had like back child support. I told him before we file something with the court, pay that. So he's gonna do that. There wasn't that much. So he's paying that off. Like I thought it was good, rather than if you're filing to reduce child support, especially that he was paying child support to the mother, that the child is 18, no longer lives with the mother, actively kicked the child out of the house.
Wow.
So he, obviously is going to want to file to no longer pay child support. But I said, you should probably pay off the arrears, the back child support before we file something with the court. And he was fine. He's going to do it.
Good advice.
And there's that. And the prenup, they said that the marriages, they don't even have a wedding date planned yet. So all waiting till after October.
Well, great start. Looking forward to getting back with you next month and hearing how the month closed and how October started.
Yeah, I hope I should have some.
And how your trial went on the first.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, Tom. Thanks. Have a great week.
Yeah, you too. Great talking to you, Jeff. Thanks for having me.